Chapter 1406 Declaration of War. Tang Xiu's eyes filled with disbelief as he muttered, "You mean that Apotheon missing star is actually Morong Tianbua?" Han Qingwu shook her head. "I'm Apotheon missing star. This is the new name I assumed after returning to the immortal world, and the missing star empire was also established by me. We have a total of 8 supremes now. I knew you would want to take vengeance sooner or later, but I never thought it would be so early. However, our current strength is enough to handle the Inner Pill Sect and Everlasting Palace." This piece of news shocked Tang Xiu. Han Qingwu's arrival in the immortal world wasn't as early as his, yet she had accomplished such a great achievement in just 300 years. Tang Xiu had never imagined that Han Qingwu was actually so formidable. Amazing. Tang Xiu sighed sincerely. Han Qingwu revealed a smile and shook her head. "My luck was good, that's all. I believed I was about to die, but I actually had an immense fortuitous encounter and obtained the legacy palaces of 4 supremes and obtained all of their inheritances, as well as their wealth." Tang Xiu felt amazed. "Which ones?" Han Qingwu replied, "Supreme Heavenly Core, Old Demon Knight, Monster Lord Regretless, and Blood Azura. They reached an agreement to have a battle in the immortal world, but they fell into a spatial crack, and even though they were all supremes, they couldn't make it out alive as the spatial crack led to the Sea of Death." Even Tang Xiu felt a bit jittery after hearing this, as even he would have barely made it out of a spatial crack connected to the Sea of Death back when he was at his strongest as a supreme of the immortal world. All immortals of the immortal world knew that running into a spatial crack that connected to the Sea of Death was equivalent to encountering the God of Death, so it was very hard to come out of it alive. Tang Xiu suddenly recalled what Supreme Purgatory had told him. He had told him that the ruler of the Missing Star Empire, Apotheon Missing Star, had bought a large amount of perfected golden immortals and golden immortals from the convict arena. This meant that Han Qingwu had really obtained a huge amount of wealth from the legacy palaces of the 4 supremes. "When did you break through to the supremacy stage? Also, how did your Missing Star Empire manage to produce so many powerhouses?" Tang Xiu inquired. Han Qingwu smiled and said, "It wasn't me, it was Morong Tianbua. Great Emperor Danqing and Zither Demon Zhouyao carried out a massacre in our former immortal palace and destroyed it, and also injured him grievously, but he was able to escape from them. The endless battles actually allowed him to benefit and opened the doors to the supremacy stage for him. You also know that he was a late-stage, perfected golden immortal powerhouse, and just a step away from breaking through to the supremacy stage. I ran into him coincidentally and informed him that you have already returned, but he chose to leave after learning that I wanted to establish a force to help you in the future. He only requested a method that would allow someone to break through to the supremacy stage, as well as the way to produce the divinity attainment pill, and this is the reason a large amount of supremes emerged from the Missing Star Empire, in such a short duration of 200 to 300 years. Tang Xiu nodded after understanding how everything had spanned. "That's already a pretty decent achievement. Give me the communication signet that connects to Morong Tianbua. I'll contact him shortly." "All right." Han Qingwu nodded gently and took a communication signet out from her interspatial ring. A short moment later, Tang Xiu summoned the communication signet outside and sent it out after leaving a message in it. Heavenly Phoenix Immortal Domain. Morong Tianbua sat cross-legged in the main hall of the Missing Star Empire's imperial palace and cultivated in silence, his hidden and formless aura enveloping the entire palace. As the palace had a huge energy-gathering array inside it, the interior of the palace contained a rich amount of immortal spiritual energy. Whoosh! A communication signet passed through all the layers of the array and appeared before Morong Tianbua. His expression changed once he read the message inside it. "Morong, it's me. Qingcheng and I were attacked by Shade Demon Zhu Wushou and she got injured pretty badly. I'm leading the Great Tang Empire's immortal army to the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect right now, and I hope to see the reinforcements of the Missing Star Empire's army as soon as possible. Murong Tianhua's heart trembled after he finished reading the message. If anyone were to ask him which person's aura he was most familiar with, it was undoubtedly that of his former master, Star Cultivation Great Emperor. He knew that his master was still alive and had established the behemoth that was the Great Tang Empire. Hence, he didn't doubt this message even a little. He rushed out of the palace momentarily and announced solemnly in a loud voice, "It's an order from His Majesty. The generals of the missing Star Empire must prepare the armies to set out immediately. We will begin marching towards the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect with haste half a day later." All the Supremes, perfected golden immortals, and 10 million immortal soldiers of the missing Star Empire began to answer the call immediately. The dozens of perfected golden immortals led a large number of immortal soldiers to steadily enter heavenly abodes, under the supervision of the Supremes. Outside the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. Great Emperor Danqing's expression changed immediately when he received a communication signet as he stood in the vast starry skies. He appeared outside the palace instantly and thundered. "Heed my orders. Summon all the powerhouses of the sect who are above the immortal stage here right away. The Inner Pill sect will prepare for war from this moment onwards and exterminate the Great Tang Empire and the Vermilion Bid Holy Sect." Whoosh! A figure rushed over from the distance and arrived before Great Emperor Danqing. He inquired about the situation after seeing the grim look on Zither Demon Joyao's face in a deep voice. "What happened?" Great Emperor Danqing's expression turned a little complicated, but it still brimmed with grim killing intent as he replied, "Star Cultivation Great Emperor didn't die. A piece of his soul managed to enter a lesser world, and he's actually back to kill in the immortal world after 1,000 years. The Great Tang Empire is also an empire he established personally. Shade Demon Zhu Wushou led 6 Supremes to eliminate Star Cultivation Great Emperor a few days ago, but he failed to do so and had to return in defeat. The immortal soldiers of the Great Tang Empire might be rushing over here already." Zither Demon Joyao's expression changed, and fear flashed through his eyes as he asked gloomily, "Since we were able to kill him once, we can do it twice. Even if he's talented, it's impossible for him to cultivate back to a peak stage supreme in just 1,000 years. Heed my orders, disciples of the everlasting sect. Send a message to the sect and tell all the powerhouses to rush over immediately. I don't believe that the tens of millions of immortals of my everlasting palace will fail to eradicate the Great Tang Empire that's only a few hundred years old." A moment later, several figures shot over towards the duo from different directions. Whoosh! 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 A total of 4 figures arrived before Great Emperor Danqing and Zither Demon Joyao momentarily. The red-haired Yin Wufa's eyes brimmed with killing intent as he said the following words, "I just received a message from the sect master of my ghost sect. The Ghost Sect will soon send tens of millions of experts to aid the Inner Pill Sect and the Everlasting Sect face the Great Tang Empire, and Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. From this moment onwards, the powerhouses of my Ghost Sect will all follow the lead of Great Emperor Danqing." Great Emperor Danqing wasn't surprised by this, on the contrary, he revealed a bit of worry on his face and asked, "How are Shade Demon Zhu Wushou's injuries?" Yin Wufa forced a smile. "The sect master's injuries are pretty grave as he almost died in the battle. However, the enemies aren't any better. 2 of the Great Tang Heavenly Emperor's 6 subordinate supremes detonated their immortal souls while the other 4 were badly injured. Even the Great Tang Heavenly Emperor came close to dying in the hands of my sect master." Great Emperor Danqing revealed an ecstatic expression when he heard that and laughed out loud. "That's really good. Even if your sect master failed to kill that Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, he won't be able to join the battle within a short while. That's good news for us. Also, Zhu Wushou sent me a message just now that the formation-breaking talisman that can break the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect's protection array is on the way along with the experts of your Ghost Sect. We shall attack the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect as soon as they arrive and attempt to eliminate them before the Great Tang Empire arrives. Yin Wufa explained, the person bringing the formation-breaking talisman is already on the way and will arrive in 6 days at most. However, it will take longer for the powerhouses of my ghost sect to arrive. Great Emperor Dan Qing smirked. The powerhouses of my inner pill sect and the everlasting sect will probably arrive within those 6 days. They are more than enough. Immortal world. The Great Tang Empire's declaration of war towards the inner pill sect, everlasting palace, and the ghost sect spread like wildfire to all corners of the immortal world in a short span of just a few days. All the immortals were shocked by this. The immortals, as well as the perfected golden immortals and the supremes of all the forces of the immortal world, felt utmost admiration for the Great Tang Empire since they never imagined that the Great Tang Empire would be actually so daring to declare war on 3 super sects of the immortal world at the same time. This had even caused a few old monsters hiding in the corners of the immortal world to make an appearance and pay close attention to the battle that was about to happen. Headquarters of the Convict Arena. Supreme Purgatory and 4 other supreme powerhouses were gathered before the immortal soul mirror to observe the starry skies around the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. They saw Great Emperor Dan Qing, Zither Demon Jiuyao, as well as Yin Wufa and the 4 others from the ghost sect there. It seems like I overestimated that Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. He's acting too reckless for a young man. Does he really believe his Great Tang Empire is on the same level as the 3 super sects that have existed for tens of thousands of years? The Great Tang Heavenly Emperor's first group of subordinates were deathmatch fighters he bought from the convict arena a few hundred years ago. Does he think just a few hundred years of development would allow him to contend with the ancient sects with such a long history? Supreme Purgatory shook his head and a look of contempt flashed across his eyes. An old man donned in an azure robe nodded slowly and said, "The Great Tang Heavenly Emperor really acted too hastily by declaring war on the 3 super sections. Although he's a talented genius, it's a pity that he has wrought such huge trouble on himself so soon. I thought another genius had appeared in the immortal world and would become the strongest supreme ever, but this is indeed a real pity." Chapter 1407, An Outcome Beyond Everyone's Expectations. Supreme Purgatory said faintly, "If the Grand Tang Empire had developed for another 1,000 or a few thousand years more, I would have considered sending our convict arena's powerhouses as an aid to him for assisting the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, and sow good karma with him, but unfortunately." The azure-robed old man sighed. "It's really quite unfortunate. There's no doubt that this Great Tang Heavenly Emperor will die, and he might even implicate the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect too. The Inner Pill Sect and Everlasting Palace were strong enough already, but the Ghost Sect has also got involved now. Although others can't figure Shade Demon Zhu Wushou out, I know he's quite a troublesome foe. He usually acts pretty low profile, but he's probably as strong as Great Emperor Dan Qing and Zither Demon Jiuyao. The Ghost Sect also has 4 supreme powerhouses at the very least, and probably many more than the Inner Pill Sect and Everlasting Palace." A shining object flew into the palace from outside suddenly, and Supreme Purgatory grabbed it immediately. His expression changed greatly when he finished reading the message inside the communication signet. "What is it, Arena Master? Did something big happen?" The other 4 supreme powerhouses inquired simultaneously after noticing the change in Supreme Purgatory's expression. Supreme Purgatory closed his eyes for a moment, and when he opened his eyes again, all he could do was smile wryly. "We were criticizing the Great Tang Empire just now, but the information I received just now caught me a bit unprepared. Shade Demon Zhu Wushou led 6 Supremes and dozens of perfected golden immortals to ambush the Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, somewhere in the immortal world. However, I bet no one would have imagined the outcome of the battle. How did it end?" The azure-robed old man asked anxiously. Supreme Purgatory forced a smile. The Great Tang Heavenly Emperor also had 6 Supremes on his side along with a Star Devourer insect that's as strong as a Supreme. He suffered grievous injuries from the battle, but 2 of the 6 Supremes under him detonated their souls and killed 3 of the enemy Supremes, and also inflicted heavy injuries on the remaining 3. As for Shade Demon Zhu Wushou, he ended up in an even worse state as his immortal soul had to flee after detonating his immortal body. How could such a thing have happened? Heavens! How come the Great Tang Empire has so many supreme powerhouses? The number of supremes in the immortal world totals less than 100 people, yet the Great Tang Empire actually has 6 of them, and also a star devourer insect on the level of a supreme. This is a very terrifying lineup. No wonder he dared to challenge the 3 super sects of the immortal world simultaneously. He actually had so many supreme powerhouses under him. If we consider the 2 supremes from the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, the supremes on their side wouldn't number less than the number of supremes on the enemy's side. I wasn't expecting Shade Demon Zhu Wushou to end up in such a miserable state. This is indeed too unexpected. Supreme Purgatory side. Let me finish speaking first. An unknown woman suddenly appeared in the middle of the battle, and she was the one who saved the Great Tang Heavenly Emperor's life, inflicting a heavy injury on Shade Demon Zhu Wushou. However, that supreme also got injured badly because of this. The 4 men drew in a cold breath of air as they weren't expecting so many supremes to get involved in this battle. Supreme Purgatory side. Forget it. Let's see how the situation turns out. Somewhere else in the immortal world. Heavenly Emperor Tianji sat upright on the golden imperial throne and observed the heavens of the distant void with his pupils, that had already turned golden, and sighed in relief internally. Heavenly Emperor, how does the situation of the battle look? A tall and muscular man donned in white armor with his long hair scattered behind his back asked. Heavenly Emperor Tianji smiled wryly. The Great Tang Empire's side won with much difficulty. The muscular man asked in disbelief. Shade Demon Zhu Wushou had 6 supremes with him. Even a total of 7 supremes failed to eliminate the Great Tang Heavenly Emperor? Heavenly Emperor Tianji remained silent for a long time and then muttered, I'm already unable to see his fate. But I can predict one thing. An immense and chaotic war will soon occur in the immortal world. In the Nepha's abyss. The black-faced ghost emperor observed the virtual image produced by a divine artifact of the ghost race in the 9th layer of Nepha's abyss and muttered, the imminent war will probably engulf the entire immortal world in endless turmoil. No matter who wins, the Great Tang Empire, or the 3 super sects, it would cause chaos in the immortal world since powerhouses from all realms might pass through Nepha's abyss with the intent to invade the immortal world. After a short moment, Blackface Ghost Emperor sent out a few communication signets and continued observing the scenes shown by the virtual image before him and waited for the war's commencement. A lot of supreme powerhouses in all the domains of the immortal world were similarly keeping an eye on the situation of the war and speculating who would win in the end. However, although they were speculating about it, they were all biased towards the Inner Pill sect, Everlasting sect, and Ghost sect. After all, these elite sects were all super forces and had a huge influence over the immortal world. Moreover, Inner Pill sect's Great Emperor Dan Qing, Everlasting Palace's Zither Demon Jiuyao, as well as Ghost sect's Shade Demon Zhu Wushou, were all peak stage supremes, so they didn't believe that the Great Tang Empire, which only had a history of a few hundred years, could win against all of them even if they gave their best in the battle. Time fleeted by, and in the blink of an eye, 6 days had passed already. Outside the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, Great Emperor Dan Qing revealed an excited expression when he saw the group of perfected golden immortals tasked by Shade Demon Zhu Wushou's faction to bring the formation-breaking talisman appear. Millions of experts of the 3 sects were on standby in the void, well prepared for the imminent battle. Inside the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, all the ordinary people of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect had entered the heavenly abodes of the sect's powerhouses. And all immortals, no matter which cultivation stage they possessed, had prepared for the imminent battle. The unprecedented war that was about to begin filled them with tension as they waited for the moment that would mark the start of the battle. Supreme Star Soul stood before a grand palace and observed the millions of experts from the 3 sects above in the starry skies, his heart filling with the intent to battle them. He absolutely wouldn't have felt this way if it were a few hundred years ago and hoped to hold back the enemy with the help of the sect's protection array. However, things were entirely different now. The Vermilion Bird Holy Sect had a lot of experts currently. A majority of their Golden Immortals had broken through to the perfected Golden Immortal stage, and a few of the perfected Golden Immortals had even become Supremes. Moreover, in recent times, a few more perfected Golden Immortals had managed to become Supremes with the investment of a large amount of God blood. As such, the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect had a total of 11 Supremes if Apotheon Bella and Sablefiend Scorpio were included together. Supreme Star Soul was confident that the current strength of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect would allow them to contend with the millions of enemies even without the aid of the great Tang Empire's army that his son, Tang Xiu, was bringing over with haste. Sect Master, looking at the situation outside, it seems like they want to storm inside our Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. As they were present in front of everyone, Star Tears called Supreme Star Soul by his title instead of a familial appellation. Supreme Star Soul narrowed his eyes and said slowly, "You're right. From their actions, it seems like they are really planning to storm inside our Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. I suspect that they must have obtained some method or item that can break the protection array of our section." Star Tears' expression changed. "From what I know, there's indeed an item that can break our sect's protection array. However, it's an item of the demon realm and not our immortal world." Supreme Star Soul asked, "What kind of item is it?" Star Tears explained, "Supreme Demon Heavenlife Fanatic, an unrivaled expert of the demon realm, excels in producing demon talismans, and one of them is known as the Formation-Breaking Talisman. All arrays of the immortal world, other than the powerful divine arrays, and even many of the protection arrays of the elite sects, cannot withstand the Formation-Breaking Talisman. We might be forced to battle our enemies if they have obtained this talisman." Supreme Star Soul took a deep break after hearing this and said solemnly, "I believe they must have obtained the Formation-Breaking Talisman. Inform everyone to prepare for battle. Also, it's highly likely that this continent will get smashed into pieces, so we will have to look for a new place for our sect once the war ends." Star Tears smiled wryly. "I fear that the imminent battle will not just destroy the continent but also destroy the entire immortal domain, and perhaps even the surrounding ones. However, Xiu has already occupied 10 immortal domains around the Immortal Lyceum, so our Vermilion Bird Holy Sect can choose a location in one of them." Supreme Star Soul nodded silently. Boom. A tremendous explosion caused the ears of all the immortals to slightly buzz in pain, and following that, a small crack gradually appeared on the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect's protection array under the gazes of 10 million immortals. In just 1 hour, the crack expanded to the entire array and smashed it into motes of energy, exposing the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect to the millions of experts of the 3 elite sects. Zither Demon Jiuyao held a zither in his hand as he overlooked the 10 million immortals of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect from above, and laughed out loud. "Imbeciles of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, you must have not expected us to break your sect's protection array, right? Your time of death has finally arrived. Your Vermilion Bird Holy Sect will no longer exist from this day onwards." Supreme Star Soul flew up instantly, his eyes brimming with grim killing intent as he replied fearlessly, "The current Vermilion Bird Holy Sect is no longer the same as before. Zither Demon Jiuyao, are you sure you will be able to destroy my Vermilion Bird Holy Sect?" Zither Demon Jiuyao sneered. "Of course. Based on the strength of your Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, we would have already eliminated all of you if it weren't for the damned array protecting your section. Although your beloved son didn't die, he has already become trash and is just an ant in our eyes. I'll spare your life, and once we are done killing all the people of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, I'll let you witness how I behead your son and use his head as a chamber pot." Supreme Star Soul shook his head and sighed. "I have seen several brazen fellows, but only one of them was able to match their words with their abilities. Forget it, in the end, you are just a fool with some abilities, Zither Demon Jiuyao." Since you are leading this battle, don't you retreat to the back now. Come have a chat with me. Chapter 1408, blocked at the front, chased from the back. Donned in armor, Great Emperor Dan Qing walked on the void and stepped closer to the members of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. His eyes flashed with viciousness as he grinned. Supreme Star Soul, we shall call you uncle for the sake of giving respect to star cultivation, Great Emperor. Now that your son has become an ant, you better stop resisting. As long as your Vermilion Bird Holy Sect surrenders to us, we might allow some of your clansmen to live and pass down their legacy. Supreme Star Soul failed to hold back his laughter as he replied, Great Emperor Dan Qing, do you really believe you'll be able to exterminate my Vermilion Bird Holy Sect today? Indeed. Great Emperor Dan Qing waved his hand, and 4 supreme powerhouses appeared behind him instantly. He said while smiling, me, Zither Demon Joyao, and Yin Wufa are all supremes, and with these 4, we have a total of 7 supremes on our side. Do you believe your Vermilion Bird Holy Sect will be able to survive our relentless pursuit and attacks? Supreme Star Soul smiled curiously. You're relying on your superior number of supremes? Are you sure about this? Great Emperor Dan Qing sneered. Of course, I am. I wish to use our superior numbers to frighten and intimidate you so that you will completely lose your will to battle. Supreme Star Soul laughed out loud. Since you're relying on your superior number of supremes, how could I disappoint you? Supremes of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, come out and broaden the horizons of the Inner Pill Sect Master. Whoosh. 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 A total of 10 figures appeared behind Supreme Star Soul momentarily, each carrying the aura of a true powerhouse and ubiquitous spiritual pressure that made the smiles on Great Emperor Dan Qing's and Zither Demon Joyao's faces freeze, filling their eyes with disbelief. 11 Supremes? The Vermilion Bird Holy Sect actually has a total of 11 Supremes? Are you kidding me? How is this even possible? Supreme Star Soul smirked. Great Emperor Dan Qing, are you stunned now? Filled with shock yet? It feels really good to see the expression on your face right now. Great Emperor Dan Qing thundered in disbelief. This is simply impossible. We're very clear about the strength of your Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, and I'm well aware of the number of Supremes you have after so many years of battling each other. Even if 2 Supremes managed to enter your sect recently, you should have only had 4 Supremes at most. How could so many of them emerge in such a short while? Supreme Star Soul laughed out loud. So many? Do you think our Vermilion Bird Holy Sect has a lot of Supremes? You're just a frog at the bottom of the well, unaware of the wideness of the world. Heed my orders, disciples of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. The time has come now, this is the moment that will decide the fate of our Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. Bring out all your potential if you wish to survive, and let them know that the ones who shall come victorious out of this war are us, not them. Kill them. Charge ahead. Go. The 10 million disciples of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect took out their innate natal artifacts and charged towards their enemies, along with Supreme Star Soul and the 10 other Supremes fervently. The 100 perfected golden immortals were even more so unwilling to be left behind and rushed forth, with murderous looks in their eyes. Kill them. The void above the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect turned into a meat grinder instantaneously. The attacks from millions of immortal artifacts and divine artifacts ripped the skies apart and bombarded the enemy ranks, leading to the death of tens of thousands of immortals at the moment the 2 sides collided with each other. An unprecedented battle unfolded following the clash, so tremendous that darkness seemed to have encroached upon the entire world. The stench of blood enveloped the entire immortal domain, reaching even the distant starry skies. Life seemed to have become the cheapest commodity in this battle. 3 days later, at the moment when the 2 sides were evenly matched in battle, the tens of millions of immortals from the Inner Pill Sect, Everlasting Sect, and Ghost Sect arrived at the battlefront. Their addition caused the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect to suffer higher losses immediately. From the same root we hail, join this battle we shall. Followed by the echoes of an aged voice, Sky Exterminator Old Beggar, as well as 3 other supremes and several million immortals of the 4 sacred palaces join the battle one after the other. Nearly 100 supreme powerhouses, as well as tens of thousands of perfected golden immortals, and the experts hidden in the corners of the immortal world, were all observing this battle. Even the powerhouses of the demon realm, monster realm, spirit realm, ghost realm, and Azura realm were using all kinds of marvelous methods to observe it. The members of all the forces were shocked by the number of supremes and perfected golden immortals that had suddenly emerged from the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, yet they were still biased towards the Inner Pill Sect, Everlasting Sect, and Ghost Sect. The Vermilion Bird Holy Sect was already at a disadvantage. Fortunately, the 4 sacred palaces arrived just in time to assist them, or else, they would have suffered higher losses. The 3 elite sects will undoubtedly become the final victors of this battle. This is really interesting. It looks like the immortal world is going to suffer huge losses this time. Let's wait longer. This war won't end so quickly, so the most optimal moment for us to act is when both sides have exhausted all their strength. Isn't the Great Tang Empire still left? Where have they gone? Is the Great Tang Heavenly Emperor unwilling to assist the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect? Did he get scared or what? If this goes on, the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect might get destroyed completely. It won't be just the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, even the 4 sacred palaces will suffer the same fate. Great Emperor Dan Qing and Zither Demon Joyao are really fearsome opponents. As late-stage Supremes, they are actually able to deal with the joint attack of 6 Supremes with ease and even manage to deliver considerable injuries to 2 of them. Things really don't look well for the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect and 4 sacred palaces this time. What a pity. The powerhouses observing the battle evaluated the battle, and from their perspectives, the destruction and extermination of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect and the 4 sacred palaces looked pretty imminent. Nearly half of the tens of millions of immortals participating in the battle had died by the 5th day, and the losses of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect and the 4 sacred palaces were much more disastrous than their enemies. However, they were able to withstand the attacks of the 3 sects by relying on their superior numbers of supremes and perfected golden immortals. Kill them! An infuriated roar traveled through the distant horizons, following which, over a dozen supremes and nearly 100 perfected golden immortals hurried towards the battlefront from 50,000 kilometers away. They then operated the heavenly abodes on them and released legions upon legions of immortal soldiers outside. Who are they? Heavens! It's the banner of the Great Tang Empire. Are they the Empire's soldiers? What battle array is this? How come it looks similar to the battle formations of the mortal empires? Those Supremes. No way, this is just impossible. How could the Great Tang Empire have over a dozen Supremes? I must have seen it wrong for sure. So many Supremes and perfected golden immortals. The Great Tang Empire has a history of just a few hundred years, so how come so many powerhouses have emerged from it? This is too terrifying. All the forces observing the battle were terrified by the strength revealed by the Great Tang Empire momentarily. In the void, Great Emperor Dan Qing and Zither Demon Joyao teamed up to bombard the 6 Supremes surrounding them, but the appearance of the Great Tang Empire's army ended up scaring the both of them as well and even caused their battle intent to dwindle rapidly at this instant. The Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, Great Tang Empire, and 4 sacred palaces have a total of around 30 Supremes altogether. Where did so many Supremes come from? Great Emperor Dan Qing despaired a little. He never imagined that their enemies were so strong that the fear killed his battle intent in its entirety and even made him feel the impulse to turn around and flee the battlefield. Zither Demon Joya's heart filled with shock as well, as the lineup of the Great Tang Empire had scared him out of his wits. His head tingled when he saw the ever-changing formations of the Great Tang Empire's army charge towards them like a river, that had burst the dam open and made him feel like fleeing from the battlefield right away. Tang Xiu stood on top of an imperial carriage and looked at the familiar faces of Great Emperor Dan Qing and Zither Demon Jiuyao coldly, his heart filling with killing intent. As his injuries hadn't healed completely, the current strength that he could muster only allowed him to barely contend with an early-stage supreme. If not for that, he really wished to charge forth and kill Great Emperor Dan Qing and Zither Demon Jiuyao personally. Escape. In just 2 days, the powerhouses of the 3 elite sects had already suffered disastrous losses and messaged their disciples via voice transmissions, with bitter looks on their faces. As such, the 3 parties converged together and killed a bloody path out of the battlefield just like a surging flood, hoping to flee. Follow me to battle. The remaining hundreds of thousands of members of the 3 elite sects believed they would finally be able to flee once they had killed their way out of the encirclements. However, the declaration from ahead of them dashed all their hopes. An orderly battle formation consisting of a large number of immortals, earth immortals, celestial immortals, profound immortals, golden immortals, and even perfected golden immortals, a total of around 10 million immortals, blocked their path and killed the members of the 3 sects at the forefront because they were the quickest to escape, crushing them as if they were ants. Kill them. Murong Tianbua's aura surged as he led a group of supremes to block the 3 elite sects' path of escape. Who are you all? Zither Demon Jiuyao roared in fury, falling back quickly because of the simultaneous attacks from 8 supreme powerhouses. Murong Tianbua thundered. We're the soldiers of the Missing Star Empire and subordinates of Apotheon Missing Star. We received orders to team up with the Great Tang Empire, Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, and 4 sacred palaces to annihilate all the disciples of the Inner Pill Sect, Everlasting Sect, and Ghost Sect in their entirety. Missing Star Empire? The entire immortal world was abuzz with discussion as the current development meant that 2 immortal empires that had expanded crazily within the recent times actually belonged to the same faction. They could imagine that the most fearsome force of the immortal world in the future would consist of the faction of these 4 forces, and with their combined strength, it wouldn't even be that hard for them to conquer the entire immortal world. The battle turned even more desperate after this. Immortals detonated their immortal souls one after the other and powerhouses were slain successively. After 14 days, Great Emperor Dan Qing, Zither Demon Jiuyao, as well as Yin Wufa had been forced to converge together and only around 20 perfected golden immortals still remained alive on their side as the rest had all died in the battle. Chapter 1409, Tang Xiu's Voice. The cruel war was already approaching its climax. The continent that was the homeland of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect had already been smashed into pieces, and was drifting within the vast void like debris. About 100 planets nearby to the continent had become implicated because of the battle between the 2 sides and exploded in succession. These starry skies were chaos incarnate right now, with a large number of corpses drifting within the void that reeked with the dense stench of blood. Kill them. A murderous aura shrouded Tang Xiu as his divine sword transformed into a sea of swords and attacked the remnant members of the 3 elite sects that were putting up a final resistance. Great Emperor Dan Qing and Zither Demon Jiuyao, especially, received the most care as most of the Supremes focused on exchanging greetings with them. Thus, their injuries, which were already pretty grave, worsened abysmally. Star Cultivation Great Emperor, for the sake of our past friendship, leave out a route of survival for us. I, Zither Demon Jiuyao, promise you that I will never appear in the immortal world for the rest of my life. Zither Demon Jiuyao's face was pale already, and he was forced to make such a shocking proclamation after he spewed out a mouthful of blood, because of an attack on his back from a 9th-grade immortal artifact. Tang Xiu narrowed his eyes and a ruthless glimmer flashed through his eyes as he withdrew 50 kilometers instantaneously. He looked at Zither Demon Jiuyao, who was on the verge of collapsing icily, and sneered. Past friendship? What a great joke. Why didn't you recall that past friendship when you attacked me at my weakest moment while I was crossing my tribulation? In the past 1,000 years, You have massacred a large number of my clansmen along with millions of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect's disciples, but did you ever recall this past friendship you just mentioned? Zither Demon Jiuyao smiled bitterly. I thought my heart was callous, but I never thought yours would be even more so than mine. How vexing this is. We should have been more prudent back then, or else that strand of your soul would have never escaped, and the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect would have never had the chance to reverse the odds. Tang Xiu's eyes filled with killing intent as he laughed out loud. History is written by the victors. Since you forgot our friendship and slew me, you should have prepared for the same to happen to you someday. Didn't you want to obtain the heavenly art of cosmic genesis and comprehend a higher-leveled cultivation art to try and pass the trial of divine tribulation? Let me tell you this, I cultivated the heavenly art of cosmic genesis after reincarnating. Did you know this? The requirement for cultivating the heavenly art of cosmic genesis is to cripple your cultivation and start anew again. I would have never realized this requirement to cultivate the heavenly art of cosmic genesis, and learned the strongest cultivation art if you hadn't slain me. Zither Demon Jiuyao thundered. That's impossible. You must have understood the secret of the heavenly art of cosmic genesis already and intentionally concealed it from us. How could we ever forgive such a selfish person like you so easily? The reason we slew you back then was because you never considered us as your brothers. Tang Xiu snorted coldly. Zither Demon Jiuyao, do you think I have any need to deceive you at this point in time? Even though I studied the heavenly art of cosmic genesis for quite a long time back then, I never really figured out the way to cultivate it and didn't even have a single clue about where to begin. In fact, the heavenly art of cosmic genesis is the cultivation art of the demon god, so it conflicts greatly with the immortal spirit force within the bodies of us immortals. So, it's simply impossible for an immortal to cultivate it. You were the ones who suspected me because of your envy and harbored hatred for it. However, did you forget that I already passed the heavenly art of cosmic genesis to you both? The two of you also studied it, so why couldn't you cultivate it in the end? Zither Demon Jiuyao turned silent. They had indeed believed that Tang Xiu had intentionally hidden things from them and given them a fake version of the heavenly art of cosmic genesis, but, after hearing Tang Xiu's words, he finally realized that Tang Xiu's words probably rang true. There was no need for him to continue deceiving them now. Great Emperor Danqing also felt some regret, but now that things had already come to this, he could only force himself to press on. Thus, he said indifferently, Star cultivation Great Emperor, what's done is done, we can only blame fate since you obtained the heavenly art of cosmic genesis back then. You're right about the fact that history is written by victors, so let's stop with the needless talks. If you wish to kill us, we'll make sure you pay a bitter price for it. Tang Xiu took a deep breath and ordered, all supremes of the Great Tang Empire, Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, for sacred palaces, and Missing Star Empire, as well as the perfected Golden Immortals. I still have 100 drops of god blood left in my hands. You know its value very well, so, eliminate the enemies before your eyes, and those 100 drops of god blood shall belong to you. Furthermore, all supremes will obtain a divinity attainment pill each as a reward. God blood? Divinity attainment pill? As the old adage went, generous rewards often gave rise to heroes. The supremes who had obtained god blood from Tang Xiu were able to remain calm, but the other supremes as well as the nearly 200 perfected golden immortals revealed excited expressions, and attacked with their all in the next moment. I don't accept this. Zither Demon Jiuyao's injuries had reached an extremely grave state because of the continuous attacks, and this had already begun to influence his battle potential. He knew that he wouldn't be able to escape today. Hence, a decisive expression appeared on his face as he ignored the 10 immortal artifacts charging at him, and rushed toward the 8 foes closest to him. Boom! A terrifying wave of explosion extended in all directions momentarily. The force behind the detonation of the immortal soul of a late-stage supreme like him was more dreadful than the concurrent detonation of 10 planets. However, the 8 Supremes fished their immortal defensive artifacts in tandem, and by the moment Zither Demon Joyao had detonated his soul, they had already formed a multi-layered defensive shield. The force of the explosion sent all of them flying while coughing blood, and their top-grade artifacts were also destroyed within the explosion. The 8 Supremes fell back thousands of kilometers and barely managed to stop themselves, their bodies riddled with grievous injuries. A small portion of the perfected golden immortals nearby had perished in the explosion, while the others had also suffered heavy injuries. Fortunately, the souls of the perfected golden immortals had managed to escape and were received into the heavenly abode by Tang Xiu instantly. Great Emperor Danqing's heart filled with distress. He gave Tang Xiu a profound look and shouted at him, "Star cultivation Great Emperor, you know my cultivation art very well. You're aware that I have 2 more clones. Even if you kill this emperor today, my clones will continue existing, so you better let us leave unless you want to wait for my clones' revenge in the future." Tang Xiu sneered. "If you surrender, I may actually leave you alive. If not, we will chase you to the ends of the world even if you still have 2 additional clones. Don't you worry, we will be able to find you no matter where you go because I believe no one in the immortal world or the other realms will dare to provide you asylum. More importantly, I have around 100 drops of god blood in my hands, so how long do you think you will be able to survive if I offer just a single drop of it as a reward for killing you in all the realms? You." Great Emperor Danqing's heart filled with despair as he knew Tang Xiu's words were right. The enticement of god blood was too hard to ignore even for the supreme powerhouses, and would undoubtedly prompt them to hunt him with their all. He would land in a truly hopeless situation if that were to happen. "Ha!" Great Emperor Danqing took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Star cultivation Great Emperor, you better keep your promise. Tell your men to stand back, we will surrender." Tang Xiu raised his hand slightly and the numerous Supremes as well as perfected golden immortals stopped attacking one after the other, and withdrew a few kilometers away. However, they still encircled Great Emperor Danqing and his followers to prevent them from escaping. "Surrender your weapons and items. Also, I need you all to seal your cultivation," Tang Xiu said deeply. Great Emperor Danqing remained silent for a long while before nodding bitterly. He severed the link between him and his innate natal immortal artifact, which caused him to spew out a mouthful of blood, and handed it over to the ordinary immortal that had arrived before him along with his interspatial ring. The other perfected golden immortals also gave up their final resistance when they saw that even Great Emperor Danqing had surrendered, and handed over their innate natal immortal artifacts and their treasures within their interspatial rings. "Seal your cultivations," Tang Xiu said deeply. Great Emperor Danqing and the perfected golden immortals hesitated for a while and sealed their cultivations following a long sigh from Great Emperor Danqing. Tang Xiu smiled coldly and sat cross-legged with his eyes closed. What's going on? No matter whether it was Tang Xiu's subordinates or the members of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, for Sacred Palaces, and Missing Star Empire, all revealed puzzled expressions. Even Great Emperor Danqing and the perfected golden immortals on his side were confused by his actions, utterly clueless about his intentions. Time fleeted by, and 2 days had passed by within such an impasse. Supreme Star Soul, the sect master of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect, finally couldn't help but arrive before Tang Xiu, and ask via voice transmission, "Xiu, what are you planning to do?" Tang Xiu opened his eyes and emotions filled them immediately as he greeted back via voice transmission, "Father, Xiu missed you a lot." Supreme Star Soul also felt equally emotional, but he was, after all, a sect master, so he knew this wasn't the time for them father and son to catch up. He proceeded to ask, "Your mother and I also missed you a lot. However, you still haven't explained why you have taken such a weird action." Tang Xiu said, "Father, don't worry. Just wait for a while longer and you'll know the reason for it. I need to end the future trouble of this battle once and for all." Chapter 14:10, 5 Great Bloodlines. Supreme Star Soul gave Tang Xiu a profound look. Although he didn't know what his son was planning, he realized that his son might have some hidden motive for doing so. All right. I'll do as you say. I believe you more than I do myself, Supreme Star Soul answered via voice transmission. Tang Xiu felt warmth encompass his heart as he replied back, Father, please tell Mother that I don't plan to meet her right now because there are too many factors of danger around me currently. I'll look for her and apologize once I have eliminated Great Emperor Danqing and the others completely. Supreme Star Soul glanced towards his wife who had Sable Fiend Scorpio accompanying her to ensure her safety from the very beginning. He nodded immediately after realizing that his son must have made arrangements for this quite a long time ago. Time fleeted by, and when everyone was feeling puzzled, Great Emperor Danqing snapped his eyes open. His face twisted in pain and his body shuddered as he released a bestial roar before giving Tang Xiu a look of rancor. He then screamed out loud, Star cultivation, you damned bastard. You went back on your word. Even if I die, I'm going to take you down with me. Saying so, he dashed towards Tang Xiu, and a tiny, exquisite golden tower emerged out from in between his eyebrows along with his body's concurrent bloating. Attack. A glimmer of disdain flashed through Tang Xiu's eyes as he passed down the order while retreating back momentarily. In the next moment, the Supremes attacked Great Emperor Danqing in tandem with their strongest attacks. Although Great Emperor Danqing had sealed his cultivation, he could still detonate his immortal soul, and his bloating body was an omen of that. Spurt. 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 The attacks of the immortal artifacts landed on Great Emperor Danqing and harvested his life, before he could even manage to detonate his immortal soul. His immortal soul had suffered grievous injuries, and even that tiny, golden tower had been flung to the distant void because of the attacks. Tang Xiu laughed out loud in the few moments before Great Emperor Danqing's soul perished. I was the one who gifted this golden tower to you back then, so why wouldn't I know that it's your hidden ace? Great Emperor Danqing, your despicable nature led to your end. As a human, one needs to always act with righteousness. The perfected golden immortals on the enemy side revealed shocked expressions immediately when they witnessed the death of Great Emperor Danqing. They wanted to escape, but since they had sealed their cultivation, they didn't have any other route except soul detonation left for them. However, a few of them didn't wish to die, so they fled towards another direction to pull some distance between their 6 or 7 companions, who were planning to detonate their immortal souls. Unfortunately, their speed was too slow because of their sealed cultivations, so none of them were able to escape far before their bodies perished within the explosions and only their immortal souls barely managed to make it out. However, Tang Xiu had no plans to leave any of them alive, so he drew out his divine sword and sent out a beam of sword light that shattered their immortal souls into oblivion. Xiu, Supreme Star Soul appeared before Tang Xiu and asked, just what are you planning to do? Tang Xiu smiled faintly. I used 3 drops of god blood to request 3 Supremes of the immortal world to kill Great Emperor Danqing's clones. I know him for so long, so I obviously know the location of his clones. Great Emperor Danqing is truly dead now. Supreme Star Soul felt overjoyed by this news and nodded repeatedly. You've done well. Since you were planning to kill him, it's better to eliminate him completely, or else it would be akin to leaving a hidden danger behind. Xiu, you really did well this time. Tang Xiu smiled faintly. Father, Great Emperor Danqing and Zither Demon Jouyao have perished in body and soul now, and about 90% of their powerhouses have also died. Thus, it's now time to eliminate the remaining fools. We have to wipe them all out clean. Indeed, we must. Supreme Star Soul nodded and said, Xiu, you're the sect master of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect from this day onwards. Heed my orders, disciples of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect. Great Tang Heavenly Emperor is my son, Star Cultivation Great Emperor. He didn't die 1,000 years ago and just reincarnated once again and killed his way back into the immortal world. Therefore, my son's orders are equal to mine henceforth. All disciples of the sect must follow his orders. Understood. The 8 or so million immortals of the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect acknowledged with loud voices. About 95% of these immortals were born 1,000 years ago, so they knew who Star Cultivation Great Emperor was, and even the exceptional geniuses who were born later on had also heard about his legend. His position in their hearts wasn't that different from the sect masters, and he was actually admired even more than the sect master. Tang Xiu nodded with a smile and gazed at the distant sky exterminator Old Beggar, the palace master of 4 sacred palaces, with a cup of his fists. Everyone from the 4 sacred palaces, you have my gratitude for helping us this time and for the assistance you have provided the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect over the past 1,000 years. I'm planning to assimilate the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect and the Missing Star Empire into the Great Tang Empire. May I ask what plans you have for the future, Senior Sky Exterminator? Sky Exterminator Old Beggar floated up and offered his salutations before asking, Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, how much do you know about the history of the 4 sacred palaces? Tang Xiu replied deeply, we belonged to the same family over 100,000 years ago, and after experiencing another tribulation in this current era, we are still family. No matter what you plan to do, I shall respect your and the 4 sacred palaces' choice. Sky Exterminator Old Beggar laughed out loudly. You said it well. We were family, so is there a need for us to part again? Henceforth, the 4 sacred palaces shall join the Great Tang Empire as well, and all disciples of the 4 sacred palaces will be at your disposal. Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. Great Tang Heavenly Emperor. The millions of immortals of the 4 sacred palaces thundered out loud. They had already received orders from their superiors, so they knew their final destination. Hence, none of them held any doubts this moment, nor did anyone disapprove of it. Tang Xiu chuckled and said, since the 4 sacred palaces wish to join the Great Tang Empire, we are all members of the empire now, a real family. From what I know, the 4 sacred palaces' Qilin branch still exists, right? It does. A tall and muscular armored man donning battle boots with flames shrouding his entire body arrived before Tang Xiu and said loudly, Supreme Flame Lord of the Qilin branch greets your majesty. Tang Xiu nodded satisfactorily. Although I don't know whether our ancestors, Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, Black Tortoise, and Qilin are alive, Ancestor Qilin's son is currently the guardian beast of the Great Tang Empire. You can reunite once you have joined the empire. Supreme Flamelord's pupils contracted as he cried out in alarm, my Qilin branch's ancestor has left a descendant behind? Heavens! The heavens must be helping my Qilin branch. Over these past 100,000 years, the Azure Dragon bloodline, White Tiger bloodline, Vermilion Bird bloodline, and the Black Tortoise bloodline have all been able to proliferate by producing offspring, but our Qilin branch found it very difficult to achieve this and has almost completely disappeared from the immortal world. Since the ancestor of my Qilin branch has left a descendant behind, it means that the Qilin branch is still a member of the entire family. Congratulations to the Qilin branch. Congratulations to the Qilin branch. Congratulations to the Qilin branch. The chiefs of the Azure Dragon branch, White Tiger branch, and Black Tortoise branch floated up and congratulated him with loud voices. Tang Xiu also laughed out loud and said, Congratulations to the Qilin branch. My Vermilion Bird branch wishes for the eternal continuation of the Qilin bloodline. Saying so, Tang Xiu soared up and stood 1,000 kilometers above everyone before stating solemnly, henceforth, the 4 factions become whole voluntarily, making our Great Tang Empire the strongest immortal nation in the immortal world. I declare that we won't provoke the other sects or harm the other immortals of the immortal world intentionally, but if anyone dares to conspire against our empire or kill our members, they will suffer the reprisal of the entire Great Tang Empire. Although I, the Great Tang Heavenly Emperor, am not the strongest powerhouse of the Great Tang Empire, if you give me some time, I shall lead all the powerhouses of the empire to cross the divine tribulation and break free from the shackles of the immortal world, taking you to have a blessed and unfettered life in the God realm. Cross the divine tribulation, break the shackles, and attain godhood. Cross the divine tribulation, break the shackles, and attain godhood. Cross the divine tribulation. The 8 or so million immortals yelled in tandem and caused the void around them to tremble. As for Tang Xiu's declaration, it also caused a huge shock in the entire immortal world. The Great Tang Empire. All the elite forces and sects of the immortal world knew about this newly formed Great Tang Empire, and it had now already become the strongest force of the entire immortal world. Over 30 supreme powerhouses. Hundreds of perfected golden immortal powerhouses. As for the golden immortals, they were too many to even count. The legions of the empire were akin to valiant lions waiting to reveal their sharp teeth and claws to tear their enemies apart. The powerhouses at the summit of the demon realm, monster realm, spirit realm, ghost realm, and Azura realm were originally feeling restless and planning to dispatch their armies to plunder the domains of the immortal world, and seize the treasures of the immortals after slaying them by taking advantage of the moment when the immortal world would become embroiled in chaos and partake in the delicacies of the immortal world. However, the situation of the Great Tang Empire had infuriated all of them and made them feel unreconciled. The ambition thriving in their hearts suffered a heavy blow, so they could only renounce their original plan. The Great Tang Empire was really too terrifying. If they charged into the immortal world, it was highly likely they would get completely wiped out in case they faced the powerhouses and armies of the Great Tang Empire. At the Vermilion Bird Holy Sect's former homeland, Tang Xiu stood in the void and thundered. We shall now attack the Inner Pill Sect, Everlasting Palace, and Myriad Sword Sect and kill the remnant disciples of the 100 Poisons Sect. Then, we'll attack the Ghost Sect. Understood. As the legions and the powerhouses got ready to set out, Tang Xiu handed this affair over to the dazzling commander of the Great Tang Empire, Tang Alang, who was already a golden immortal by now, to handle. Tang Xiu believed that Tang Alang would definitely complete this mission perfectly, after all the effort he had put into cultivating him over the past several hundred years. After that, Tang Xiu arrived before Apotheon Carmen Mist, who had become a supreme just recently, under the gazes of everyone, and kowtowed towards her in the void. Mother, your son has returned.